Firestorm. Ronnie Raymond was a jock of a high school student who was also, funnily enough, an environmentalist. When Ronnie showed up to protest the opening of a new nuclear plant, he met Dr. Martin Stein, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist who worked there. When the Firestorm Matrix reactor malfunctioned, thanks to one of Ronnie's compadres, Stein and Raymond were both caught in the radioactive aftermath and somehow found themselves fused together into Firestorm, the Nuclear Man. Now, they are a being with two minds sharing the same body, usually with Raymond taking the lead. Alongside the rather unique one man with two minds thing, Firestorm also gained the ability to transmute any non-organic matter, having complete control over molecules. With this ability, he can do many things. Flight, phasing, regeneration, self-sustenance, strength, durability, shapeshifting, energy projection, and absorption and density manipulation. All of which, as you know, make for an incredibly powerful individual. Number 9. Vixen. Mary McCabe, who is the superhero known as Vixen, is also a successful fashion icon, talk show host, and animal activist, who is able to channel the powers of any animal that has walked or evolved on Earth through the mystical object given to her ancestor by the god Anansi called the Tantu Totem. Originally, it was the Tantu Totem that gave her her abilities, but over time it has been changed. The totem actually just helps hone said abilities. Basically, Vixen has a strong connection to the Red, which is a magical thingy that connects all animal life in DC Comics. A few other characters also share a connection to the Red, but I think Vixen is definitely one of the coolest. Normally, she uses this power for flight and to enhance her speed, strength, senses, and healing abilities. But she has also sometimes used the poisonous abilities of certain animals and has even been seen to fully transform into animals. Vixen's ability is so wide that she can use the light of an anglerfish to create powerful lasers, use the armor of armored beetles to withstand a punch from Superman, and she can even create a force field using just the energy from the Red itself. Number 8. Blue Beetle. The Blue Beetle Scarab is what gives this hero their powers. I say there because the Blue Beetle has been multiple people over the years. Dan Garrett and Ted Kord were the first, with the most recent Blue Beetle being Jamie Reyes, and he will also be the one featured in the DCEU, so I'm gonna mainly focus on him, sorry. Once the Scarab latches onto Reyes' spine, it can manifest various powers. When he's in danger, the Scarab automatically activates and encompasses him in a high-tech suit of blue, beetle-like armor. This suit provides Reyes with superhuman durability and strength, flight with wings that spread out the back, and speed with rocket boosters. It can also translate both human and alien languages for Reyes. The suit's durability is so high that it is bulletproof and allows Reyes to survive the heat of a rocket launch, re-entering Earth's orbit, and even explosions. The suit can also produce energy blasts from its hands that are powerful enough to discharge Kryptonian radiation and neutralize magic, which, if you don't know, both of those things are quite the feat. The suit can also construct objects out of nanotechnology as well as transform itself into nearly anything. The suit has transformed itself into anything from swords and cannons to a staple gun, which could probably be pretty useful, I think. It can manipulate alien technology and apparently has access to WMDs that are apparently capable of taking out the Spectre, so yeah, don't sleep on Blue Beetle. Number 7. Red Tornado. Originally, Red Tornado was an android created by the supervillain T.O. Morrow, whose name I absolutely hate. But he was made to infiltrate the Justice Society of America. But since then, the android has, well, he's become more than an android, but he's also become a noble superhero and a pretty gosh darn powerful member of the Justice League. Red Tornado basically is an air elemental housed in an android shell. He can create powerful air currents powerful enough to level skyscrapers in seconds. He channels air and wind forces through his arms and legs to produce bursts of cyclone strength winds and high speed forward velocity flight. He can also absorb air, which, I mean, we all absorb air when we breathe, so it's kind of weird. But Red Tornado is also super strong and very durable, enough so that he, or it, can take a missile straight on and come out completely unharmed. A few times, Red Tornado actually managed to become invisible to the human eye due to his high velocity movement, and surprisingly not because he's an elemental. His android form also gives him resistance to various mental powers. He's very cool, but unfortunately not as popular as he should be. Number 6. the Ray. Raymond Terrell was apparently born with a condition that didn't allow him any exposure to sunlight. Or at least, that's what he had been told. It turns out Ray had been lied to. In reality, Ray's real father was Happy Terrell, a World War II hero known as the Ray. So it turns out Raymond was born with tremendous superpowers that only awaken with light exposure. Upon discovering his new powers, he actually went invisible for about 4 years, before saving a friend, turning the assailant invisible, and then restoring them to scare the bejesus out of them. Ray is a being of light and has many abilities as a result. Once his body absorbs natural light, like sunlight or artificial light, he can direct the energy to rearrange molecules into any form, matter, or energy. With the projected energy, he can fly, project rays, beams, and bolts of destructive light, and create constructs out of pure light similar to how a Green Lantern can do it. Obviously, he can bend light to make himself or others invisible, but he can also do a similar thing in order to create illusions. And after consuming light energy, he can sustain himself off of it, not needing to eat or drink. Number 5. Metamorpho. Rex Mason was a globe-trotting adventurer and archaeologist who encountered the Orb of Ra on one of his journeys. This orb mutated him just a little horribly, but alongside the mutations, it also gave him the power to convert his body into any element. If you ask me, it's a pretty fair trade-off. I would take it. Using the power to shapeshift his body into various forms using the elements, he became a hero. Now Rex can stretch, bounce, elongate, control, and reshape his body as if it were made out of rubber or plastic. He can alter the shapes and consistencies of the elements he becomes and even combine them to form complex compounds. He has biofission, meaning that Rex can split his body into several copies of himself, each with the same powers. And lastly, he has a naturally occurring body armor, but it's a little redundant because, although Metamorpho's powers allow him to fight against evil, they also are a curse, keeping him trapped in a hideous form, unable to even die. He's not hideous, honestly. People are just kind of judgmental. Number 4, Stargirl. Starting off as Star-Spangled Kid of the team Stars and Stripes with her stepdad, Pat Duggan, after joining the JSA, Courtney Whitmore is given the Star Rod when Jack Knight decides to quit being Starman. To continue his legacy, eventually she officially declares herself as Stargirl. Now, as Star-Spangled Kid, Courtney used the Cosmic Converter Belt, which enhances a number of Courtney's abilities, such as her agility, durability, speed, stamina, and strength, as well as allowing her to create Star Blasts from the stored energy of the belt. When she became Stargirl, she still kept this belt, but now she's using the Star Rod, which allows her to fly as well as absorb energy which she can project into various uses, such as blasts and force fields. Also, because the rod is attuned to her, it can receive mental commands from a distance, so she can do multiple different things here. Pretty good. Number 3, Aztec. Okay, since we are talking about a character who has a lot to do with Aztec mythology, I will 110% mess up some pronunciation here, just a forewarning. Uno, the man who would become Aztec, was trained from birth by the mysterious Q Society, which is a secret organization dedicated to providing a champion for Quetzalcoatl. His mission is to prepare for the eventual second coming of the dark god Tezcatlipoca. To help with that, Aztec's power comes from the Mask of Warriors, which has been handed down from warrior to warrior over the generations, with their consciousness becoming one with the mask, meaning Aztec can call upon the experience of his predecessors in any situation, which is incredibly helpful. The helmet bestows its wearer with a variety of abilities other than that though, including enhanced audio and visual systems like X-ray and infrared vision. It protects the wearer, increasing physical strength, and will even transfer full motor control over to the helmet if the wearer becomes unconscious. The armor can camouflage itself, turning it invisible or reducing the wearer's molecular density. The gauntlets contain energy blasters located in the palms, and launchers hidden in the wrists that can shoot wire nets, cables, or mini rockets. Kind of like Iron Man, the armor's chest piece acts as a power battery for the suit, and also allows the venting of highly destructive energy that can destroy a whole city block. The suit also allows him to fly and allows Aztec to travel through space. It also looks super cool. Number 2, Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle was Scott Free, who is the god of escape in the New Gods mythology. So that's already a high level of praise. A Genetian raised on Apocalypse, Scott and Big Barda left for Earth, where he used the skills he learned in escapology both as a performance artist and in the Justice League of America. So, obviously as a new god he has immortality, super strength, durability, and agility, but the fun part is his escapology. Scott can basically escape from most things, even in his sleep, and no, I'm not joking. He is aware of the unconscious procedures he's mastered and can modify them in their use with other skills to use new knowledge. He's also very proficient when it comes to making traps. It may not seem like an incredibly useful ability, but it is certainly unique and can be used in more instances than you may think, especially when on a team like the Justice League. And in at number 1 is the Phantom Stranger. First appearing in the first issue of his own self-titled comic all the way back in 1952, the Phantom Stranger is an immortal to the extent of even surviving having his own heart taken out of his body. The Phantom Stranger is a mysterious supernatural guide and specialist in the occult. He can travel across space and time at will, even to magical dimensions, including the realm of the just dead, the antechamber of souls, heaven, hell, apocalypse, and the realm occupied by the quintessence. All of which is something very few Justice League members can actually do. There's a lot that is just kind of not known about this character, which is a purposeful thing, but it's a really annoying thing for making a video on him on YouTube. In the New 52, he is apparently Judas Iscariot, roaming the earth trying to make up for the guilt of betraying Jesus. I don't know where that came from, it just kinda is the way it is. He is one of the most powerful magic users in DC Comics, with his use of magic being almost unmatchable if not taken by surprise. Number 10, Hawk Girl, a classic. After assisting in the defeat of Barbados and the Dark Knights, Kendra Saunders' Hawk Girl was recruited to join the new Justice League as Hawk Girl, a core member of the team. Nice. While not a totally new character, she did have a fight with Barbados, and that gave her this new nth metal fusion power. This gives her nth metal psychoreactive wings that look totally awesome. They can slice through flesh and are able to completely heal all by themselves. She has been reincarnated so many times and has so much experience that she makes an extremely effective and powerful member of the Justice League. As well as her cool new wings, Kendra also has several powers including enhanced strength, enhanced durability, enhanced vision, accelerated healing, self-sustenance, and has been taught telepathic resistance by Martian Manhunter. Unfortunately, she was one of those members of the League affected by the death of the Justice League thing. But that leads us directly into the next 5 points, so that's good. Number 9, the Wonder Twins. Look, they aren't really Justice League members, but they were interns, which is like part of the way there, right? Maybe. If you watched that video about weird DC multiverse characters, then you know these two. The Wonder Twins are 2 alien siblings from the planet Exor, who possess some interesting shape-changing powers. The sister Jaina has the ability to transform into any animal, which is a potentially very useful and powerful ability, and it's always pretty fun. The brother, on the other hand, Zan, is capable of turning into water in any of its states, so liquid, steam, or ice. Again, potentially pretty cool, but more often it's not though. And honestly, he always seems to play second fiddle to his sister anyways. The two were first introduced in Super Friends, where they were much more cheesy and did a whole lot of fist bumping. They still do, but it's sweet now. Number 8, Jace Fox's Batman. Okay, yes. I'm structuring this a little differently. So after the death of the Justice League, 5 legacy characters have been teased to be stepping up into the mantles of their predecessors. Timothy Jace Fox seems to be the one stepping into the role of Batman. First appearing in Dark Knight's Death Metal number 7 last year, he actually took on the role of Batman after Gotham became a police state ruled by the Magistrate, who hunted down masked characters, and Batman seemingly met his demise. That's Bruce Wayne Batman. Jace wears a batsuit very similar to the classic, only with a full face covering. In the art for the new Dark Crisis coming out next month, he seems to just have a regular cowl though. He has created a new bat symbol and has teamed up with Jason Todd Nightwing.
He also hums to himself while fighting criminals, which is kinda cute, honestly. Number 7. Jo Maleen's Green Lantern. Sojourner Maleen was granted a Green Lantern ring after she was unceremoniously fired from the New York City police force. She became the Green Lantern of an unnumbered sector, with her first main job being in the City Enduring, an alien planet city inhabited by 3 previously warring races. She's tasked with solving the city's first murder in 500 years. It's pretty serious. Jo's ring recharges over time instead of requiring a battery, which, as a trade-off, makes it a bit weaker. It's still a Green Lantern ring though, so she ain't someone to mess with. This non-reliance also proves really useful when the central power battery explodes at a Green Lantern meeting Jo was running late to, taking out a bunch of lanterns and depowering a whole heck of a lot more of them. She took charge here like a true hero should. She has been teased to be taking over the role of Green Lantern. Obviously. Number 6. Jackson Hyde's Aquaman. Jackson Hyde is actually the son of one of Aquaman's main villains, Black Manta, but luckily he fights for justice, hence being part of this video. As Aqualad, with his hydrokinesis and Atlantean powers, he has been a part of the Teen Titans, Young Justice, and has fought alongside Aquaman against his own father, and has even temporarily stepped into the mantle of Aquaman in one of his major story arcs. He has proven himself capable, if not a little undisciplined, and he, alongside Jo Maleen, Jace Fox, Yara Flor, and John Kent, was part of the alternate Justice League in Future State, so we know he has the means to take over the role. Just like the last two, he is poised to take over the position of Aquaman, allegedly, in the upcoming Justice League. Number 5. Yara Flor's Wonder Woman. Ayla was an Amazonian who left Themyscira and settled in Brazil, where she fell in love with a Brazilian river deity. You know, like you do. The child these two would create became the Amazonian Brazilian demigod Yara Flor. Living in an Amazonian village, they were attacked by agents of the Greek gods, and Ayla lost her life. But Yara was taken to Idaho by a woman named Renata, who became her adopted mother. After her return to Brazil, she gets magical golden boleadoras, meets a human she hits it off with, is stabbed with an arrow by Eros, who she falls in love with, and is taken to Mount Olympus, where she is trained, given gifts, and gets a Pegasus named Jerry. Nice. She's offered the role of becoming Hera's champion, but after learning of her true origins, she refuses, and after a lot of scuffling, she brings some Amazons to defeat those responsible for the de-lifing of her own mother. She has become Wonder Girl, and was Wonder Woman in that Future State Justice League I keep talking about to defend my reason for putting these characters on this list. It'll be cool to see her actually step into the role of Wonder Woman, if that's what happens. Number 4. John Kent. And last, but extremely not the least, apparently, stepping into the role of Superman in the Justice League will be none other than his own son, Jonathan Samuel Kent. Look, it just makes sense. John obviously was a member of the League's reserves before this point, but taking over the role of his father would be a big step up if it is ultimately what comes to pass. The son of Clark and Lois Lane, Jonathan began fighting crime at the age of 10. John possesses all the same powers as his father, plus a solar radiation explosion thing that isn't really under his control. According to Batman, he actually has the potential to surpass his father's power levels thanks to his half-human physiology, which kind of makes no sense to me, but whatever. Jonathan actually became Superman when his father left Earth to go to Warworld, so he has had a bit of experience, which will hopefully help him if he does become the new Superman of the Justice League next month. And that covers every one of the characters teased to take over the respective roles in the League. A few of these characters are part of the future Justice League, so it remains to be seen what role exactly these few will play, and I may have doomed myself to be roasted in the comments, so there's that. Number 3. Hippolyta, or however you want to say it. Queen of Themyscira, she takes over the role of Wonder Woman in the Justice League in the Infinite Frontiers storyline. Now, Diana isn't perished. Well, she is now, but not when her mother took over in the Justice League. Diana had ascended after defeating the Darkest Night, and with Hippolyta having dubbed Nubia as the newest ruler of Themyscira, she was pretty free to take on the role in the Justice League. It's interesting to see her interact with Aquaman, and the small amount of time her and the number 1 spot got to work together was also rather interesting. As an Amazonian, she possesses pretty much all the same powers as her daughter, just better because, you know, she's been around longer. Unfortunately, this whole thing didn't last very long with the whole death of the Justice League thing. Number 2. Naomi McDuffie. Joining the team just after our number 1 spot in Justice League Volume 4 number 63, Naomi McDuffie is a teenage energy-based hero who was actually sent to the Prime Earth from an alternate reality to be spared from this really crazy villain, Zumbado, who rules over her native Earth. While her powers are unstable and she hasn't quite learned a complete control over them yet, Powerhouse's powers are confirmed to be Omega level in nature, so that's enough to put her pretty high on this list. She basically transforms into a golden armored superpowered form, which gives her a kind of energy projection that she uses to enhance her punches, making them very super indeed, and she also uses them to fire energy blasts. Interestingly, Naomi can also augment magical powers, kind of opposite to how Superman is weakened by them. In her super form, she can fly and obviously has super strength and durability. Number 1. Black Adam? What? That's right. Joining the Justice League in Volume 4 number 60 of the team's self-titled comic, thanks to an invite from Superman, it's my second favorite Adam other than myself. Teth Adam was an unwilling laborer back in ancient Egypt who received power from the wizard Shazam, just like that other guy in red with a lightning bolt. What was his name again? I forget. Black Adam actually loses his life, and after his resurrection was no longer powered by the wizard. Instead, he gained his power from 6 Egyptian deities: Shu, Horus, Amun, Sehuti, Aten, and Mehen. Funny how they happen to still spell it Shazam though, huh? And he still shouts Shazam to activate his powers too, naturally. He also makes for quite a great leader, being the ruler of the African nation of Kondak. However, he hasn't traditionally been a great team player, and well, the whole supervillain anti-hero thing doesn't really help his case either. I'm just interested to see where this goes, to be perfectly honest.
Number 10. Dexter. I just love Dexter so much and would really love to see this Red Lantern character fleshed out and developed even more as a part of the Justice League. Dexter has been around since the New Earth continuity and is a Red Lantern from Earth who is, yes, a house cat. Get over it. I don't know why I said that like everyone's gonna be like, really Amanda, a house cat? I know y'all like cats. I know some of you like cats. Let me know, are you a cat or a dog person? Let me know in the comments. Dexter was chosen to be a Red Lantern after a really sad story where their owner was murdered and then they themselves ended up a victim as they were tossed into a sack and then thrown off a bridge into the river below. But don't worry, Dexter got saved and became a Red Lantern. Dexter's main goal in life is to find the murderer of his owner and avenge her death. Dexter initially was presented as more of a villainous character, but in the Prime Earth continuity is less villainous and more neutral, I'd say. Sure, he's not against killing, I mean, he is a Red Lantern, but he's also such a good kitty. It's hard to hate him despite all his own hatred for, you know, people out there that do bad things. In the Prime Earth continuity, Dexter also managed to ally with the Justice League Odyssey team, but not the JLA as of yet. Although Justice League Odyssey is also a super cool and weird team that I love, and yeah, you should check them out. Number 9. Harley Quinn. Okay, sure, so is Black Adam right about the fact that Harles will probably end up stabbing you in the back? Maybe. But she also happens to have some of the greatest plot armor of any character around. Over the years, Harley has been evolving, moving from being the Joker's sidekick to a somewhat reluctant anti-hero to a full-on bona fide superhero, or at least, you know, almost a superhero at this point, I'd say. As of now, she's even considered part of the Bat family, an ally the Bats can rely on. So I mean, she might betray ya, but she'd still definitely be a fun one to read in the JLA series. I know I would be more inclined to read some Justice League if Harley was on the team, I'm just saying. And I think eventually as time continues to move forward, she'll become even more and more reliable as a hero. Probably. Maybe. Either way, she'll always be fun to read, so. You can't take that away from her, I don't think. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show some love for us on another platform, you can head on over to Facebook where you can give us a like and a follow, because that's what you do on Facebook. Number 8. Captain Carrot. This might seem like a joke pick, and I mean, it kind of is, but also I actually like Captain Carrot, and I want to read more about his adventures, and one of the ways I can ensure I get more Captain Carrot action would be to get him on the Justice League. I mean, when DC was doing their round robin this year, I was legitimately hoping we'd actually get to see Carrot's team up with Darkseid. How weird and cool would that be? I was so here for that comic. Sadly though, no, not a thing we're getting. Almost no support for Captain Carrot. I am apparently alone in being a Captain Carrot fan. I wave my sad Captain Carrot flag all alone. For those unaware, Captain Carrot is a superpowered rabbit, known originally in the New Earth continuity as Roger Rabbit before being renamed as Rodney in the Prime Earth continuity, for probably the fact, we kind of have a Roger Rabbit that is prominent. He hails from Earth 26, which is populated by other cartoon animals, some of whom join Rodney in his fight against crime as superheroes. And it's a very cartoony reality, so cartoon physics apply, which means that Captain Carrot's also pretty powerful, I'm just saying. Cartoon physics are some of the most powerful stuff you can have in a comic.
Number 7. Animal Man. Thanks to an encounter with some rather strange aliens, Bernard Buddy Baker gained access to the morphogenic field, otherwise known as the Red. This field basically allows Buddy to absorb and use different attributes of nearby animals while still being a human. So, he has been able to move his eyes independently like a chameleon, he's been able to ram against a speeding car with the abilities of a rhino, he can fly by tapping into birds, he's regenerated a whole lost limb by tapping into an earthworm, gained the strength to lift a car by tapping into a spider, and he's ran at 75 miles per hour by adopting the abilities of an ant. But his abilities have done some even more surprising things, like, for example, when a villain cut Buddy off from any nearby animals, he took on the attributes of the bacteria inside that villain's body, allowing Animal Man to duplicate himself, and he can even tap into the attributes of extinct animals like dinosaurs, which has allowed him to punch out a T-Rex and survive being crashed into by a plane by borrowing the abilities of both a Stegosaurus and a rhino. And that's another thing, over time he's received power boosts that allow him to use multiple abilities at once, and then to even use the abilities of any animal in the universe, like when he used the power of a Sun Eater, which let him fly across the galaxy in an instant. He's even absorbed the powers of Krypto, Superman's superdog.
Number 6. Batgirl. Batgirl is Barbara Gordon, and while she actually did manage to join the JLA during her time as Oracle, Babs has never been a member of the team, to my knowledge, while using the Batgirl mantle. And honestly, if we potentially see Nightwing join up on the new League, it seems likely we could see Babs as well, who has been seen canoodling with Dick Grayson in his own Nightwing series recently. Batgirl is a member of the Bat family, the daughter of Commissioner Gordon and the protege of Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. And I also feel like she'd have some pretty useful skill sets when it comes to what she can offer the League. As Oracle in the New Earth continuity, she was part of the JLA for a while until Batman was off the team following the events of the Tower of Babel. However, in the Prime Earth continuity, she's only been a part of the Justice League United and the Justice League Reserves. So, yeah.
Number 5. Kongorilla. You remember the Tasmanian Devil. I said that heroes who turn into beasts are cool. William Glenn Morgan is actually cool. He can transfer his mind to a gorilla. He can also change size and has a healing factor. So what's the problem? For starters, he's called Kongorilla. Get it because he's a gorilla and he's from the Congo? Secondly, Congo Bill, yes that was his nickname, was part of a horrible Justice League run by James Robinson. Pile on top of that the fact that in said Justice League run, he was highly underutilized and was completely overshadowed by better named characters, and you've got a short-lived Justice League member who you ain't gonna find on pretty much anyone's favorite list.
Number 4. Green Lantern Joe Moline. While Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and Kyle Rayner have been on the Justice League, and I think Jessica Cruz has as well, we've yet to see Joe Moline make it onto the main continuity team. Sure, she was on the supposed future team in Future State, but since that isn't really happening now and is relegated more as a potential future and alternate reality than a likely one for us, we don't have her yet there. John actually did ask Joe to join his proposed Justice League roster recently, but she was too busy to accept that offer. Here's hoping she gets less busy out in space soon so that she can actually join up. After the amazing series that was Far Sector, I need more Lantern Moline in my mainstream comics. Please, give me more Moline.
Number 3. Black Adam. Whether you like it or hate it, Black Adam has been part of the Justice League. Black Adam has essentially the same base power that is possessed by Shazam, who made part 1 of this list, but for Black Adam, his ideologies and ruthless nature mean that he is simply much more capable than Shazam because he does not hold himself back. All we have to do to see how capable Black Adam is to take a peek at 2007's World War III event, or as I like to call it, Black Adam versus literally everyone. Black Adam single-handedly goes up against, beats the snot out of, and even takes the life of some of the combined forces of the JSA, the JLA, Captain Marvel, China's Great 10, the Phantom Stranger, Martian Manhunter, Power Girl, Wonder Woman, Stargirl, Plastic Man, Jay Garrick, several Green Lanterns, and more, all at the same time. And almost no one can take him down for the whole run of the comic. It's absolutely insane. Now, as for his whole inclusion in the Justice League, he was officially a member, but he also wasn't exactly good, which he never really is. We can discuss in the comments, but he is easily one of the strongest people to ever be a part of the Justice League.
Number 2, Power Girl. Power Girl has been on a lot of teams over her time in the comics, but one team she has never been a member of that I would love to see her on is the Justice League. I know she's technically from an alt universe hailing from Earth 2, but that doesn't stop me from loving her as much as I love any other main continuity heroes who are also badass. In fact, don't tell Supergirl, but I actually prefer the alternate Kara of Power Girl to the main continuity counterpart. Sorry, Supergirl. Power Girl is often known for being a member of the Justice Society of America and has even been a part of Fringe League teams like Justice League Europe and Justice League Task Force, but no main league for her. She can even bring her cat Stinky along if she wants. I would not mind. Bring Stinky. Number 1, Nightwing. Dick Grayson is a character who has served on the Justice League following the Blackest Night event, but that was way back in the New Earth continuity. And even then, that wasn't Dick Grayson as Nightwing on the team, it was Grayson as Batman. And this is Prime Earth now, and we still have yet to see Nightwing join the JLA. Now that Batman is gone following the death of the Justice League in Justice League issue number 75, it would be really cool to see Nightwing follow in his mentor's footsteps and even become the leader of the Justice League. This is implied at the end of Dark Crisis issue number 1 by Black Adam, or at least the inclusion, if not leadership, of Nightwing on the future team. But will it happen? Well, we hope so.
Coming in at number 10 is Calendar Man. Julian Gregory Day, whose name is a pun on the Julian and Gregorian calendars, has an obsession with dates, committing crimes that always have a relationship to the date that they are committed on, usually covering the major holidays. Like most of the messed up members of the Batman's Rogue Gallery, Calendar Man had a rough childhood. His parents neglected him, which almost resulted in his death from days of exposure, which in turn resulted in his complete psychotic break and obsession with days and holidays. First appearing in Detective Comics number 259 in September of 1958, Calendar Man was a bit sillier, using different costumes to commit crimes based on the days of the calendar, like dressing up as an Indian magician representing the monsoon season. But after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, Calendar Man was barely used and instead got a great revamp by writer Jeff Loeb, Batman The Long Halloween. In this new version, Calendar Man was institutionalized in Arkham Asylum and was deemed as an insane, ruthless criminal with abbreviations of the months tattooed around his head in a circle with no silly costumes or ridiculous crimes. Number 9. Joker's Daughter. Honestly, did not even know this character existed, which just shows how much I don't know about Batman's villains. Duella Dent is all over the place, psychologically I mean. She started as the villain who refers to herself as Joker's daughter, even though she is absolutely not his daughter. As you can tell, she has an unhealthy obsession with the clown, which has been a thing since she debuted in Batman Family number 6 in 1976. She has also claimed to be the daughter of Catwoman, Scarecrow, Riddler, and Penguin. She deduced Robin's identity, and he in turn revealed that she was Duella Dent, and that it was believed that she was actually Two-Face's daughter, which also isn't true, as she is actually from Earth 3 and her father was Jokester, with her mother being Evelyn Dent, Earth 3's Three-Face. Despite not being Joker's child, Duella proves herself worthy of the title. She uses equipment that is very similar to the Joker's usual flair, and more recently she has been rewritten as almost completely bonkers, which is especially evident after the Clown Prince's seeming demise. Also, before 2011, she was on the Teen Titans as Harlequin for a while. Number 8 is Cornelius Stirk. Cornelius Stirk is one of those villains that you don't hear much about, but is one of the more gruesome and terrifying members of Batman's Rogue Gallery. Stirk suffers from delusions which make him believe that he requires the nutrients of a human heart in order to stay alive, and not just any heart. Specifically, Cornelius believes believes that the heart is the most nutritious when it is full of norepinephrine, a natural hormone that secretes when a person is terrified, as well as adrenaline. So he uses his unexplained psionic ability to mentally make people perceive him as someone else, which other than allowing him to break out of Arkham Asylum, also allowed him to get close to his victims and then completely terrify them in the most insane ways before he quickly ends them and partakes in a nice old hearty meal, literally. I think the interesting thing about Stirk is that he is actually really effective at what he does, being able to evade Batman and even render him unconscious on one occasion. Number 7. Flamingo. Eduardo Flamingo, known as Flamingo, is a world-famous serial taker of lives and assassin. He is well known for a specific thing he does which inspired his sometimes name of the Eater of Faces, which explains itself, I'd say. Eduardo was actually a morally strong advocate and fighter against organized crime, but it changed when he was captured and underwent forced brain surgery that altered his personality, making him dangerously psychotic. Now, the incredibly colorful Flamingo is an enforcer and assassin, rocking a very unique look and somehow totally making a pink motorcycle not look silly. He has a dark, unfeeling personality and is an expert marksman, which makes up for his lack of powers and makes him a pretty dangerous threat for Batman. He has even temporarily paralyzed Damian Wayne, so think twice before you judge. He'll chew your face off, man. Batman's obscure villains usually happen to be a bit more serious and psychotic, but a lot of obscure villains can be completely ridiculous and silly, which makes me wonder, what are some of the silliest and wackiest, commonly unknown villains that you guys love? Let me know in the comments and I'll get on with this video. Number 6. Humpty Dumpty. With his house being demolished, his dog being run over, and his parents being crushed by a Christmas tree on Christmas, things weren't too great for Humphrey Dumpler. He was mistreated by his grandmother, who he was forced to live with, and because of his appearance and mental capacity, he was bullied. Of all things, the last straw for Humphrey was missing a subway train. Humphrey was obsessed with fixing things, and since the missing of the train, he started going out late at night to disassemble and reassemble mechanical devices which had upset him in some way. But since he wasn't very intelligent and all the info he got was from books, the things he fixed actually caused a lot of accidents. The first was the same train he missed, which then crashed. Now going by Humpty Dumpty, he was tracked down by Batgirl, who dislocated her shoulder, saving him. Humpty Dumpty fixed her shoulder, but then also revealed that he had evolved from disassembling devices to disassembling and reassembling people. Namely his grandmother, who he believed had to have been broken and in need of repair. So he took her apart, then attempted to sew her back together again with bootlaces. Wow, that got really dark, like really quick. Kind of uncomfy. Number 5. Maxi Zeus. I had a really cool history professor in high school who specifically taught classics, which is Greek and Roman history. Super cool guy, but I'm just imagining him becoming a Gotham crime lord. He was an awesome person, so I just can't see it, but luckily in DC Comics we have Maxi Zeus, a former history teacher. Following the loss of his wife, Maxi Zeus started to suffer from delusions that he was the actual human reincarnation of the god Zeus. Using his genius level intellect, he became a Gotham City crime lord, establishing himself and his group of followers. I mean cultists. I mean mobsters. I don't really know. He had a short-lived battle against Batman, and he has been pretty much locked up at Arkham ever since, occasionally breaking out. Most recently though, his randomly super strong and ripped body was used to revive Deacon Blackfire, but this didn't last very long, so it doesn't really matter. Number 4. Colonel Sulphur. This Denny O'Neil created villain from the 70s is an espionage expert with a weaponized artificial hand, a tool he has used to commit very espionage type crimes. He's very Bond villainy if we're being honest. Colonel Sulphur has a strange sunlight fixation though, meaning he only allows himself to act on his violent urges in the quote morning's earliest minutes, which is one hell of a specific yet very obscure time frame for criminal activity. He did actually prove to be a bit more of a threat when he joined the Army of Crime. When the Army of Crime's activities were challenged by Batman and Superman, Sulphur used an alien weapon to trap Superman and Batman in a timeless dimension. Sulphur then used stolen weapons to take over Gotham City, but as you may suspect, he was soon stopped by Batman and Superman, who had escaped from the timeless dimension. These things happen. Sorry, dude. Number 3. Lord Deathman. The Japanese crime boss known as Lord Deathman has battled Batman Batman both in American comics and in Japanese manga, using his powers to seemingly overcome death itself, able to rise from the grave no matter what his injury is. In his first appearance in Batman number 180 in May 1966, he passed away 3 times using a yogi technique to appear dead before the final conflict, which saw him get struck by lightning and actually pass away. But since then, he has actually gained the real power to come back from the dead, but at the cost of having a bare bones skull for a head. His regenerative abilities are so powerful that his blood is used to create the infamous Lazarus pits that Ra's al Ghul uses to stay young and immortal. One of the first ways Batman defeated Lord Death with his new powers is honestly a little out of character for the Crusader. He threw Lord Deathman off a building into the path of an armored car, which took the criminal down just long enough for Catwoman to lock him in a safe, and then he was shot into space. And he still came back. Number 2, the Condiment King. I think at this point, Condiment King is a little more well known, just because of how ridiculous he is. He first appeared in the DC animated universe as Buddy Standler, who was a comedian manipulated by the Joker into being a Batman villain. He became an even bigger joke of a character when he was introduced to the DC comics as Mitchell Mayo. No, I am not joking, yes, that is his actual name. No one really takes Condiment King that seriously, and I can understand why, although it should be noted that he can totally stain your clothes, and if you're allergic to any of the condiments he fires out of his ketchup, barbecue sauce, and mustard guns, then he can be quite dangerous. What I'm most curious of is the quality of his short-lived restaurant when he temporarily went legit. Can you imagine if he couldn't even get food right? That would just suck. Number 1, Johnny Karaoke. I actually couldn't find a page for Johnny Karaoke on the DC wiki, so that should tell you just how obscure this guy actually is. Johnny Karaoke is a Yakuza loan shark who has the odd knack of singing into his microphone as he is committing his crimes. A microphone whose stand doubles as a sword that he will pull out on you when you let your guard down from laughing at him. On top of his odd singing career, Johnny leads a little gang known as the Geisha Girls. That's spelled Grrrls, like girls. Very, very fear-inspiring. Maybe not the most intimidating of Batman's villains, not at all really, but this villain is honestly just too interesting to stay buried for too long. I'm personally advocating for the big screen debut of Johnny Karaoke, and it better be comic book accurate. And in at number 2, Shazam. With the mystical power of 6 gods, Shazam is not just said to be the physical equivalent to a baseline Superman, but he can almost definitely take on Superman himself, as the Man of Steel has no resistance to magic. Shazam has actually proved himself to be faster than and also able to knock out Superboy Prime, who is one of the most powerful versions of Superman ever, able to shake reality with punches, that kind of thing. But this isn't a list about people who can take on Superman. Batman has stated that Shazam is one of the most powerful beings on planet Earth for a reason. He has KO'd the god of evil and father of Darkseid, Yuga Khan, with 1 punch. And speaking of gods, Shazam has been able to defeat the DC versions of Ares, Atlas, and Thor, all of whom are incredibly powerful gods. While he is astoundingly strong, fast, and durable, Shazam's true potential, I think, comes from his natural affinity for magic, which can potentially allow him to do almost anything, which I know to be true because of another magic-wielding leaguer. And at number 9 is Superman. We are kicking off this list with what everyone would expect to see, because it's just not interesting to have him any lower. That's my reasoning, and I'm sticking to it. Superman is the baseline. He is what we compare almost all other DC superheroes to when we are talking about power. Superman at his base level can destroy planets, tank hits from just about anyone including Darkseid himself, and he has a whole plethora of abilities that some are even forgotten when writers use Superman in a story. The thing about Superman is that he almost has no upper limit. If this guy wants to, he will fly into not only our sun, but multiple suns throughout the universe to drink up their radiation in order to gain a massive power boost. He's been able to break the barrier between dimensions, and in some stories he has existed until the very end of the universe, splitting himself into multiples so that he can be a hero for the entirety of that universe, although that wasn't technically canon. The point is, while he is arguably without equal because of the fact that he has no real limit, there are a few members of the League who could give him a run for his money. Number 8, Zatanna. A lot of people sleep on Zatanna, and that's a mistake. Zatanna is part of the Homo Magi race, giving her a genetic genetic talent for magic that makes her one of the greatest magic users in the multiverse. Zatanna was born with magic, but she's not limited by that. With the addition of learned magics, Zatanna can cast a whole multitude of spells that allow her to do things like travel dimensions, summon objects and beings, perform telekinesis and advanced telepathy, redirect and return attacks, mess with the weather or even time of day, manipulate her own size or transform into basically anything, become intangible, and manipulate magical versions of the elements. But that's all the basic stuff. She can cast spells that can manipulate reality, alter the molecular structure of objects, and move forward, backwards, and freeze time itself. And that's not even getting into what she could do with black magic. Sure, she may not be as physically capable as some other characters on this list, but she has the potential to make child's play of most of them despite that fact. If you guys are enjoying this list so far, make sure to drop a like and subscribe here at Top 10 Nerd. And make sure to let us know any topics for videos you want to see in the future. But coming in at number 7 is Wonder Woman. As 1/3 of DC's Trinity, Wonder Woman has to make this list. Where Superman is a being of raw power, that, plus his outstanding moral character, are what makes him so unstoppable. But then we have Wonder Woman, who is almost equal in terms of strength, speed, and durability to the Man of Steel, but she's leagues and bounds above the guy in terms of her skill. In a melee fight, she will outmatch pretty much anyone, and she will be quicker than almost anyone, including Superman, because she doesn't even need to think when fighting. She's just a natural. I don't think we can actually show it, but my favorite Wonder Woman panel, which I think comes from Injustice, is literally her snapping Superman's arm using her elbow while he screams in pain and Harley Quinn is in the background like rooting her on. It's fantastic. But even in regular continuity, she's been able to last a hot minute against a mind-controlled Superman who was not holding back, and she could have even taken him down if she wanted to. And then we talk about Death Metal, where Wonder Woman got powered up to the point she was taking on beings of cosmic levels of power using a magical chainsaw. Then she went on to Valhalla, of all places, but even managed to get out of there and come back to Earth. And that's the other thing. Wonder Woman has access to not only magical artifacts, but she was gifted with magical abilities by the goddess Hecate, or however you pronounce that. And those powers were leagues above Zatanna's own magical prowess. And we've already talked about how powerful magic can be. There isn't much on Earth that can really stand against Wonder Woman. In at number 6 though is Green Lantern. I think a lot of the time Green Lantern is just thought of as the guy who can make breakable green light constructs, but that is just a huge oversimplification. To prove my point, all we gotta do is look at some of the things done by the most powerful Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. Hal is essentially pure willpower, which is what powers his Green Lantern ring. This means he has incredibly intense levels of strength and durability, but anything he does with his ring is just better than any other lantern. And that's before he even forged his own ring, which no other Green Lantern has ever done. Hal has such control over his ring that he has been able to pull a spaceship out of the gravitational pull of a star, but he has also used the ring to attack nanites inside his own bloodstream. He can destroy entire planets, one-shot KO Superman, hit people so hard that it warps reality, and then as most people know, he destroyed every single member of the Green Lantern Corps. Now after creating his ring, he was even more powerful than that. He literally started to become a being composed of will, which doesn't even really make sense, but means he can't really die. He obliterated Sinestro, who was powered up by Parallax. He moved so fast he broke the Speed Force barrier, tanked a massive blast from Mogo, who was a Green Lantern that's a planet, and Mogo was being boosted up by hundreds of other lanterns when that happened. And he created hard light constructs that were actually alive and couldn't be beaten by the Green Lantern and Sinestro Corps combined. Absolutely insane. In at number 5 is Martian Manhunter. John Johns is another character that people really sleep on, but this guy is insane with his level of ability. There's a panel from the New 52 when Martian Manhunter is fighting off all the members of the Justice League at the same time. Let me break this down. With his left hand, Martian Manhunter is displaying his shapeshifting abilities, turning into a massive spiky club and whacking away both Cyborg and Hal Jordan Green Lantern. With his right hand, I think it's safe to say he's showing off his super strength, as he's got a power grip on the lasso of truth, and I'm assuming he's resisting its power, which is just a whole feat on its own. Behind him is Aquaman, who's like jabbing at Johns with his trident, but this is just going through the Martian Manhunter and is showing off his intangibility powers. And then we got Superman, who's flying around the fight at a decent distance away while Manhunter is using his heat vision to keep him there. And then the funniest weakest part is Batman doing absolutely nothing, just picking up the Flash, who seems to have just been knocked down. It's almost a perfect display of his abilities, but leaving out a handful, and one of the biggest. John is the most powerful telepath on Earth, and one of the most powerful in the universe. Martian Manhunter has been called the most powerful being on the planet, and he's at the top of the list of people that Superman is afraid to fight. That's enough said right there. Number 4. Orion. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as such he's not only incredibly conflicted, but also incredibly powerful. He has many forms and he has many abilities. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with, quote, skill and ferocity second to none, which allowed him to become the greatest warrior on Apokolips while he was undercover there. He is so astronomically strong that he has held open the hand of the god of strength and might, who had been threatening creation and ripping holes in reality with that strength. And he has stood against and beaten a sun-charged Superman one-on-one, something no one else in the Justice League was able to do. His durability is so powerful that he can tank star system destroying explosions. Orion is so fast that he moves with the speed of thought, and he's so smart that he was able to create the Genesis box, which can destroy and rebuild a universe. He can grow and shrink to any size, move through time, has a healing factor as if he actually needed one, has incredible super senses, and wields the Astro Force, which does a hell of a lot on top of everything, including matter and energy manipulation. But as an example, it once sealed holes in reality and knocked out Superman in a single shot. And that's all just Orion holding back and not using his true power called the Source of the Beast. And yet, he flies around space on a stupid looking scooter. And at number 3 is The Flash. Okay, look, I gotta tell you now that I'm actually gonna be talking about Wally West here. It's pretty well known that Wally is even faster than Barry Allen is, and I'd argue that he is the fastest speedster anywhere. In Flash Forward, Wally somehow went, quote, faster than the Speed Force, which means he went faster than the source of his own super speed. That makes no freaking sense! He can outrun Superman and Barry Allen. He outran the Black Flash, which is basically death, taking it to the end of the universe where it just ceased to exist. He has saved the Titans, who were all over the US, and he did it in 6.25 seconds. And my favorite point, there was a time that he saved the whole population of a city from a nuclear explosion as that explosion was going off, and he did it at like 1 billion times the speed of light. How does that even make sense? It doesn't. That's your answer. Wally West is insane. He can manipulate the Speed Force to make time basically irrelevant to himself, and he might as well just be classified as a god. Number 2, Firestorm. Where do we start with Firestorm? The main version of the character is Ronnie Raymond, who was fused with his professor Martin Stein. But there are a lot of other versions of Firestorm, a lot of whom are either one person or different fusions of people. It's annoyingly complex. The character, as you might guess, has pyrokinetic abilities plus durability, flight, reflexes, and super strength, but the character's main thing is that they can rearrange the molecules of matter. Now this ability is obviously incredibly OP, and it would simply take one story to make him completely god level, but for the most part, writers kind of misuse him. Potentially, this character could transform entire planets into whatever he wanted. With his powers, Firestorm's done some pretty godlike things. For example, Firestorm manifested a pink bunny mascot suit out of thin air around the villain's Skull Crusher. He's turned explosives into a jack-in-the-box and a cement truck into a giant teddy bear. It's hilarious, but like low-key, absolutely insane. On a way less hilarious note though, he also turned a girl into salt when he was resurrected as Deathstorm, and in Doomsday Clock, Firestorm accidentally turned a crowd of Russian protesters into glass. But outside of matter manipulation, Firestorm has had some impressive feats, like surviving the nuclear meltdown that originally created the hero and absorbing all the excess radiation, and then another time, Firestorm survived a straight-on nuclear explosion. An alternate version of the character called Deathstorm was able to absorb and capture 3 different Justice League teams into its Firestorm matrix, allowing the crime syndicate to take over Earth for a period of time. And in Infinite Crisis, Firestorm was able to seal a multiversal rift. Now in case you haven't noticed, we have kind of moved away from physically unstoppable characters to characters that are just pure science fiction gods. And at number 1 is Captain Atom. Nathaniel Atom was transformed into Captain Atom in the 60s after being semi-forced to participate in a potentially fatal experiment, piloting a device encased in an alien metal. Now the experiment didn't kill him. What it did do was atomize him and bond the alien metal to his flesh, giving him superpowers. Captain Atom's powers are like Firestorm's powers, but boosted to a whole different level, and with many more side abilities. Matter manipulation, energy manipulation, time manipulation, energy absorption, telepathy, spatial manipulation, quantum manipulation, force field creation, magic and mind manipulation, and control of the quantum field are all on this guy's roster of abilities. These powers have let him perform some insane feats like creating and destroying whole universes, fighting Superboy Prime, easily defeating a team composed of multiple versions of himself before absorbing them and creating an explosion powerful enough to destroy a universal space-time continuum. Captain Atom is potentially the most powerful superhero, certainly the most powerful who is also a member of the Justice League.
And at 10, Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug is just an all-around terrible character, okay? His real name is supposedly Erwin Schwab, but he has mental problems that prevent him from truly understanding the reality around him, so even his true identity might be no more than a delusion on his part. His origin is also disputed, although the most commonly accepted origin is that Brum-El of the planet Schwab sent his clothes from his supposedly doomed planet, hoping that his wardrobe would survive, only to have it intercepted by a giant radioactive space spider. In the resulting crash, only 2 articles of clothing survived, one being the ambush bug suit, which was subsequently found by Erwin. His powers include the ability to teleport at will, which is never explained, and the uncanny ability to annoy everyone around him, even more than me talking about the Hulk on this channel. This guy also started out as a supervillain, and the original pitch, according to the creator, Keith Giffen, the same man who created Lobo and Blue Beetle, was, quote, Bugs Bunny as a villain. And I think that says it all.
Number 9. Tasmanian Devil, the Hulk, Wolfsbane, Beast Boy. Characters that change into beasts are awesome, depending what they turn into. So when Hugh Dawkins turns into a were-Tasmanian Devil, it's just not what anyone was looking for. While it may seem super fitting for the Australian to turn into a marsupial, and while he may look somewhat cool, I don't know. For some reason, he has a giant T naturally appearing on his chest when he transforms, just to make sure you know that he is not a wolf, but specifically a Tasmanian Devil, because if he was a wolf, then he'd just be another werewolf character, and he's way cooler than that. He's a were-Tasmanian Devil. And that's cool, Mom!
Oh, hold on, before we go on with the video, okay? You gotta come over to the new channel, my new channel, Minecraft Nightmare, okay? Look, scary Minecraft all the time. I know it sounds weird, but trust me, it's fun, okay? So come do it. Minecraft Nightmare. Link is in the description, I hope. And at 8, Nort. Some of us love an animal-themed superhero. Others love an animal-human hybrid superhero. However, those who find themselves to be fans of Squirrel Girl might not know about what is probably one of the worst DC equivalents, Nort, with a G. Originally a member of the Green Lantern Corps, which doesn't really mean much since there is literally a Green Lantern that is just a planet, Nort eventually became a member of the Justice League Antarctica, which by name alone indicates how meaningless it is in the overall JL hierarchy. And while his character may have been made as a joke, being stupid and incompetent by trade, it is still surprising just how bad he truly is. I mean, he's a red dog human, for God's sakes. Like, how do you come up with this design? Who thought that this would be a good idea?
Number 7, iVampire. I mean, it's me, so of course I'm going to want a vampire on the team. Of course I am. And what better vampire hero than Andrew Bennett? Basically, I feel like a lot of my ideas for who should actually be on the Justice League, if I were making a Justice League team with people that hadn't been on it yet, are informed by Justice League Dark. I guess I just want the JLD to be declared more mainstream by being our JLA team. Andrew Bennett has also been known as the Lord of the Vampires before, although not all vampires recognize his sovereignty. This doesn't change how powerful he is, even alone as a character. Bennett is immortal, can heal, is super strong and fast, can manipulate and control minds, can shapeshift into animals, and is even skilled at wielding magic. Later on in his history, but still. Also, after the disrespect of dying pretty much immediately in DC vs. Vampires when attempting to warn the heroes, I think he deserves a spot on the JLA just for that injustice. Like, I mean, it's DC vs. Vampires. What do? You kill one of the most prominent vampires straight out of the gate? Ugh. So disrespectful.
And at 6, Blue Jay. Jay Abrams, known as the crime fighter Blue Jay, first appeared in Justice League of America number 87 in February of 1971, and was made as an homage to the Marvel character of Yellow Jacket. However, while Yellow Jacket had an explanation for his powers, Blue Jay didn't. He could shrink to 7 inches tall for reasons, and he could grow wings for more reasons. Seriously though, these reasons are never explained. And having no explanation is worse than the yellow sun giving him power. Having no explanation is worse than nanotech, for God's sake. Having no explanation is worse than Catman from Fairly Odd Parents. Blue Jay is just Hawkman with a stupid mystery, and that's not something I tend to enjoy, okay? It's freaking ridiculous. The lack of explanation as to how this man has the powers he does and why is, ironically enough, the reason he's on the list.
Number 5, Supergirl. It's funny, when I look up how powerful is Supergirl, I found more stuff about how she isn't more powerful than Superman, as if saying that Kara Zor-El is stronger than Kal-El is insulting their own masculinity. Kara is technically older than Kal is, and she also never learned to hold back, meaning she goes in with 100% effort. This made her appear to be much stronger than Superman when she showed up on the scene, but Superman has been absorbing the rays of our sun much longer, meaning he inherently has more power and more knowledge of how to use it, and his ancestry makes him just better than most other Kryptonians. That's the same reason, or part of the reason, why he was stronger than Zod. So now all the Superman stans can just like chill out for a sec. Supergirl has the potential to have all the exact same abilities that Superman does, but at a lower level, which still makes her insanely capable and one of the strongest beings in the universe. She has fought Barry Allen pretty successfully, obviously not trying to hurt him though. She put up a decent fight against Wonder Woman, though she still got kinda destroyed, and beat the snot out of Cyborg Superman, and then there is Power Girl, the Earth 2 counterpart of Supergirl, who seems to be even stronger.
And at 4, Godiva. Dora Lee is the British superhero Godiva and a member of the Justice League International. And her power? Prehensile hair. Sometimes called psychokinetic hair, prehensile hair is a term used to describe the ability of some characters to move their hair in impossible ways, kind of like a tail. Not only can the character move their hair, but they can also use it to wrap up opponents, knock out armored thugs, and contend with larger enemies. But you know what? That isn't even enough for me to consider her a decent Justice League International member, okay? Because like, what? Basically, this is Rapunzel so blasted out that she whips her hair back and forth like Willow Smith and thinks that she's controlling her hair with her mind. Her power reminds me of how like every single time you're trying to cuddle up with a girl, but like no matter what, you always have hair in your face and it's never comfortable because there's at least one strand of hair is always comfortably on your face, but you're not comfortable. The hair is comfortable, but you're not.
Number 3, Queen Nubia. Nubia may have just had her coronation in the comics, becoming the queen of the Amazons officially, but she could still maybe carve out some time for the Justice League. Or you know, at least if she doesn't have time now, perhaps later she might be able to get away for a bit and join them. After all, Hippolyta and Wonder Woman have both been members of the team, so I'm wondering where Nubia's invite is. Nubia, like her sisters, is a fierce warrior and a skillful leader. We also learned she enjoys playing music to pass the time as well in the preview for The Adventures of Young Diana, as seen in the Wonder Woman 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. What I'm saying is, Nubia rocks.
And ultimately, in at number 2, Batman. Yeah, that's right, I'm calling out your glorious Batman, so pipe down for a second, okay? It's my turn. While being one of the founding members of the League, Batman has had some serious trust issues that bring down the team. Mostly I'm talking about his whole various plans to bring down the members if they end up going rogue thing. An understandable concept in theory, but I mean it doesn't really go over well considering how Ra's al Ghul steals the plans and then puts them into action. While yes, he isn't as bad as some of the other characters on this list in their contexts, in this context, he really does screw up. I mean, if they weren't the protagonists and their deaths wouldn't result in the loss of millions of dollars for DC, they would not have been able to stop Ra's from wiping out every League member and just taking the whole League off the board. Let's be realistic here, okay? Batman may be good at what he does, but he's not a good teammate. Batman is amazing at whatever he's doing at the time, unless that thing is being on a team, in which case he kinda sucks. And it's, you know what, he's one of the worst Justice League members because of this. Get mad all you want. Deep down, you know I'm right.
Number 1, Mistech. More like mistake. Look guys,
I know it was a bad joke, okay? Everyone here told me it was a bad joke. I'm trying to do better. I will do better, okay? I'm sorry. Everyone loves a comeback story. When Miss Tech, a woman named Seong Barclay, first came on the scene, she was a pretty low-tiered villain. She wore the armor of her late father, which gave her a masculine-looking physique while in the suit, and she had energy-projecting abilities. Eventually, Martian Manhunter recruited Miss Tech for his Justice League task force, which, I mean, how could she say no? Maybe if she took into account her claustrophobia. Superheroing doesn't necessarily bring you into confined spaces, that's fair. But when there is a possibility of being put into a spacecraft and going off into space, that's when things get a little problematic. And it's what they did when the Justice League task force had to go into space and Miss Tech panicked. She shot a hole in the craft and got sucked out into space, ending her short-lived membership on the Justice League task force. I almost feel bad for her. Not really, almost. Number 10, Constantine, or Constantine, or whatever you want to say. John Constantine is a really fun inclusion for this list because he is extremely powerful and not powerful at all at the same time. John can wield magic for sure through years and years of learning, training, traveling, but he doesn't have any kind of magical affinity or any kind of beneficial magical family heritage. John relies on actual magic as a very last resort, and the magic he knows how to use isn't anything to scoff at. He has even, very momentarily, been able to hold back Dr. Fate, but using magic comes at a cost and he knows this. So, what Constantine prefers is trickery. Lies, deceit, traps, his wits, weapons, artifacts, backup, and calling in favors. John smokes, he drinks, he's in his middle ages, and he ain't in the greatest of health. He can throw a punch for sure, but most people are a physical match for him. But at the same time, he has been able to trick, outsmart, or overpower gods, demons, and angels, Batman, Superman, Darkseid, Swamp Thing, Dr. Fate, the Phantom Stranger, the Spirit of Justice, the Spectre, who's the Spirit of Vengeance, Lucifer, and even the Presence, who is basically DC's version of God. He tricked the Presence into curing John of cancer and granting him divine protection by selling his soul to 3 separate Hell Lords who would start a civil war over his soul, which would spill out onto Earth and into heaven. You don't sleep on this bad-mouthed middle-aged man. Number 9, I, Vampire. In comparison to most of the other characters who have made this list, Andrew Bennett as a vampire is kinda squishy. Vampires are practically indestructible and can regenerate any damage done by consuming blood. They have superhuman strength, speed, reflexes, stamina, can transform into bats, wolves, rats, and mist, and have enhanced senses and a bit of psychokinesis. But despite that, they have some major weaknesses that pretty much everyone is aware of, with a big one being the frickin' sun, unless they can find a way to temporarily make themselves immune. But for I, Vampire, he has a peculiar ability to eventually automatically revive himself after he is killed, even if he becomes a pile of ash from the sun. He has even survived the end of the universe. Now, this ability is a bit of a mystery even to Bennett himself. When he survived the end of the universe, it was at the will of the Presence, leading some to believe that this may be true in all cases, but that's not actually confirmed. The point here is that he is literally unstoppable because he will always just come back. Is it cheating? I don't know, maybe, but if it is, then our next spot absolutely is cheating. Number 8, Deadman. While I, Vampire, will come back from the dead every time, Deadman is already dead, and therefore pretty much can't be touched except by magic, magical artifacts, or magical beings, but even then he can usually give them a good beating. Boston Brand is a ghost. Sorry. Giving him some pretty limited abilities like intangibility, flight, and invisibility, plus a little bit of dimensional travel, which is a bit more useful. But where he truly becomes powerful is in his ability to possess other people. Now, of course, this ability isn't always reliable because there always needs to be some kind of challenge to nerf an ability like this. Batman, for example, is a struggle because of his incredibly strong mind, and there are a lot of strong-minded individuals in comic books. Plus, he can't control people who have already been hypnotized or who are immune to being possessed, like the Spectre. But there are still quite a few extremely powerful characters who he could potentially, and has, possessed. Judy Moon, the Enchantress, Swamp Thing plus the Green, Pantheon, who is an elder god, and the multiversal entity known as the House of Mystery have all been possessed by Deadman. But there's no reason he couldn't possess Superman, Wonder Woman, and a large variety of other heroes and villains. Number 7. Faith. When the original Justice League was teleported thousands of years into the past, a new Justice League was formed, and Faith was one of those premier members. Only she was more like the member. See, the problem with Faith was that she solved pretty much any problem. She would almost always show up with some new power that was exactly what the League needed at the time. When she was part of a Black Ops team before the Justice League, she was literally nicknamed the Fat Lady. She ain't fat. It was a reference to the saying, "It ain't over till the fat lady sings," because literally whenever she showed up, the fight was over. So then what's the point of having a team at all? Fans found her boring, and she was basically just a plot device. A waste of a powerful character, if you ask me. Number 6, Aquaman. The ocean is a genuinely terrifying and interesting place. As such, the Atlanteans of DC Comics possess a few advantages over us regular humans. They have super strength, speed, endurance, and durability, all in order to help them survive the mind-boggling pressure at the insane depths of the ocean at which they live. But Aquaman himself is a royal Atlantean, which means that he is a super Atlantean. His strength and durability has allowed him to close the Marianas Trench, go toe-to-toe with powerful foes like Martian Manhunter, Lobo, and Wonder Woman, and tank blasts from Starro. His speed, which is often forgotten about, allows him to swim at 10,000 feet per second, and he can move even faster without the pressure or drag of water, allowing him to dodge bullets and catch lasers. But Aquaman has quite a few other advantages. His control over sea life has helped him in a large majority of his fights, with his underwater allies coming to his aid and helping him do things he probably couldn't do alone, like creating a massive tsunami with whales. His telepathic skill is actually quite impressive as well. Some of my favorite feats include him telepathically controlling a Green Lantern ring, reading the Martian Manhunter's mind without permission, and controlling a space dragon. Now for a while he had a hand that was a hook and then became a magical mystical water hand that could do a whole other level of feats, but I'm out of time, so we're moving on.
Number 5, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is Alec Holland, or more specifically, Swamp Thing was Alec Holland before he was dissolved in essence in a swamp with his consciousness living on and merging with the swamp to create something new, an avatar of the green known as Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is crazy powerful, and I don't think they get enough attention and respect from comic book fans in general. He's always been a character that I found fascinating, and I think as such that he would make a great addition to the Justice League team. Sure, Swamp Thing has been on the Justice League United team, Justice League Dark, and is part of the Justice League Reserves, but he's never been a member of the full-blown JLA, and I think there is a lot that he would have to offer on that team. Also, like I said, I do kind of just want a Justice League Dark to be the JLA.
Number 4, Swamp Thing. Alec Holland was a chemist and botanist who spent most of his efforts creating a chemical formula that could increase the growth speed of plants and even let plants grow in abnormal places. Unfortunately for Alec, the lab he was working in was sabotaged and he passed away in the ensuing explosion and fire while running out into the swamp where his lab resided. Since his body was covered in the formula he created, his consciousness was absorbed by the plant life of the swamp. In a new human-like plant body, Alec rose as the Swamp Thing. Alec was now an earth elemental and avatar of the green, essentially a god of plants. With unimaginable levels of superhuman strength, durability, and inability to feel pain, regeneration from plant life, he can move at the speed of light, alter his size drastically, shapeshift to allow himself to have other abilities like flight. He can duplicate himself, has chlorokinesis, or control over plants, which allows him to teleport through plant life, as well as, and thanks to his connection to the green, he can even move through time and possesses cosmic awareness. He's taken control of all the algae on Earth to remove most of Earth's oxygen in a show of strength. He's taken hits from and even restrained Superman and knocked the wind out of Wonder Woman. Swamp Thing is one of the more interesting heroes that DC has, and he deserves more respect on his name. Number 3, Maxima. Maxima. You had the potential. You see, Maxima had a power set that put her on par with the likes of Superman. She was also an alien from the planet Almerac. The problem with Maxima doesn't come from her powers or anything like that. No, see, the problem with Maxima is that her planet's population is dwindling, and her #1 goal is to find a man to do the repopulating with. Seeing Superman as the perfect mate, she goes after him only to be turned down, leading her to join a Superman revenge-based team and then join the Justice League to try and seduce him. Surprisingly, it didn't work, and she would turn her sights on Captain Atom and then Amazing Man. And then she bit the dust thanks to Brainiac. She could have been someone. She could have been a contender. Number 2, Dr. Fate. I honestly thought Dr. Fate was just a part of the Justice Society and not the Justice League, but I was wrong, and I'll admit that. So, while he should have been in part 1, he is making part 2. Hate on me in the comments if you want, I literally don't care. One of the first magic-wielding superheroes ever, Dr. Fate debuted in 1940, way before Doctor Strange. Technically, Dr. Fate is a name used by the wearers of the Helmet of Fate, which was created by the powerful sorcerer Nabu, along with the Amulet of Anubis and the Cloak of Destiny. When Nabu passed away, his spirit was absorbed into these items, allowing him to live on through his hosts. Now, while Kent Nelson was the first, characters like Inza Kramer, Jared Stevens, Khalid Nassour, and a few others have wielded the powers of Dr. Fate throughout history, inhabiting the Tower of Fate and fighting magical threats. The Helmet of Fate itself grants the hero their vast magical powers, which include reality manipulation, matter manipulation, and time traveling, among many other abilities, plus the knowledge to cast spells that can do even more. And in at number 1 is Lobo. Lobo is basically what would happen if you took Marvel's Wolverine and Deadpool and smacked them together, added a pinch of the Punisher, and then made him as strong and tough as Superman and coated him in Gene Simmons face paint from the band Kiss. Now, as with all characters' feats, we need to take it with a pinch of salt, because this Zarnian in one story was able to take out the New Gods, who are all ridiculously powerful, but in the same story, he was captured and restrained by 3 Green Lanterns. He's been able to knock out Superman, regenerate himself from a pool of blood, has been deemed immortal and banned from both heaven and hell. He can track anyone he has met across the galaxy, is immune to psychic attacks, he's a genius, can break the fourth wall, can possess others, speaks 17,000 languages, can clone himself using his blood, can travel time and space with his motorcycle, and in one story, he literally takes out every single superhero, and man, he punched Santa's head off. That's just messed up. Lobo is almost completely unstoppable, and for some reason, he was very briefly part of the Justice League.
Coming in at number 10, we have the intelligent zombie Solomon Grundy. Inspired by a 19th century English nursery rhyme, Solomon Grundy was born centuries ago as a wealthy merchant, but after being murdered and having his body dumped in a swamp with mystical properties, he's now cursed to constantly be resurrected with slightly different properties each time. Usually being depicted as an incredibly physically strong zombie, Grundy's greatest power is his resilience to both magic and physical damage, meaning that every time he's faced by Batman, he needs to figure out a whole new clever plan to find a way to properly defeat him. Coming in at number 9, we've got to go with Clayface. When you're facing off against the world's greatest detective, being able to disguise yourself as anyone seems like a pretty useful skill to have. This alone would make Clayface a difficult foe for Batman to overcome, but combine that with the huge amounts of physical strength that Clayface possesses when he changes into his more monstrous Hulk-like form, and you have a rare mix of stealth and strength that keeps Bruce Wayne on his toes. This ability to manipulate others through careful mimicry allows Clayface to be far more intelligent than he appears. And while his skill as an actor comes across as funny in depictions such as the Harley Quinn TV show, it can be quite deadly under more serious circumstances. Coming in at number 8, we've got to go with the bladed assassin, Deathstroke. While in recent years, Slade Wilson has become more well-known for tormenting the Teen Titans, Deathstroke has also had many run-ins with the Justice League and the Dark Knight himself. With his brain operating at 9 times the efficiency of a normal human brain, Deathstroke is exactly the type of opponent that pushes Batman to his physical limits, with a complete mastery of every weapon he has at his disposal. Combine that with his Icon suit, which has been shown to even be able to withstand a punch from metahumans such as Superman, and this is a foe that Batman is always just barely able to outwit and defeat. Coming in at number 7, we have the malicious psychologist known as Hugo Strange. One of Batman's oldest villains, originally debuting only a few issues after the Caped Crusader himself in Detective Comics, Professor Hugo Strange was also one of the very first villains to ever figure out his secret identity as Bruce Wayne. While initially depicted as a typical mad scientist stereotype, more recent interpretations of the character have seen him as a devious manipulator, using his position of power as a doctor of psychology to examine the criminals of Arkham Asylum and scheming to gain power throughout Gotham City. It's this emphasis on mental ability rather than actual superpowers that makes Hugo Strange such an interesting villain to deal with, and the fact that he's consistently been able to figure out Batman's biggest secret in multiple different universes means that Hugo Strange just might be one of Bruce Wayne's biggest threats. Coming in at number 6, we have Bane, the villain who broke the bat. A brilliant tactical warrior who was raised from childhood inside an island prison, Bane's most notable act was when he systematically eliminated Batman's support system and eventually faced and bested him in single combat, shattering Bruce Wayne's spine over his knee. This victory over the Dark Knight was only temporary, but has still given Bane an intimidating reputation that he more than lives up to, going on to become a supervillain crime boss and proving that Bane isn't just about pure physical strength, but that he's also a ruthless and brutal strategist as well, even willing to kill Alfred Pennyworth just to emotionally shatter Damian Wayne. It just goes to show that you should never ever underestimate Bane. Coming in at number 5, we have Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. The owner of the Iceberg Lounge, perhaps the most famous criminal hangout in all of Gotham City, the Penguin might look similar to his namesake, but is far more deadly in reality. While an impressive crime lord even without any superhuman enhancements, the Penguin is made extra deadly by the special umbrella he carries, which is always stuffed to the brim with different lethal gadgets to help him fight against Batman or any other supervillain that seems interested in starting a turf war. This unpredictability and Oswald's sanity not quite being all there make the Penguin an incredibly difficult opponent to read, hiding the fact that this crime lord is far more dangerous than he initially appears. Coming in at number 4, we've got the reality warping Batmite. A troublesome imp from the same fifth dimension as the Superman villain Mr. Mxyzptlk, the Batmite is honestly more of a nuisance than a flat-out supervillain, often appearing just to try and challenge Batman or to see more of his heroic acts. Sending Batmite back to his own dimension is usually a tall order given his complete reality warping powers, but luckily the world's greatest detective is usually smart enough to outwit Batmite and send him packing to where he truly belongs. However, fifth-dimensional beings have nearly limitless power within our regular three-dimensional universe, meaning that Batmite should probably have a close eye kept on him in the future. Coming in at number 3, we have Arthur Brown, aka the Clue Master. Not to be confused with the similarly themed Riddler, the Clue Master is a former game show host who wound up turning to crime in order to pay the bills. The father of Batman ally Spoiler, the Clue Master for a time seemed to embrace the role of being a second-rate supervillain, before it was eventually revealed that his status as a Riddler ripoff was actually intentional, and that organizing Batman's more underrated foes was his master plan all along to avoid detection. It's not often that a villain is able to temporarily outwit the Caped Crusader, and Clue Master shows just how powerful the right man with a plan can become. Coming in at number 2, we've got Poison Ivy. Born under the name of Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy has always been dead set on protecting the green plant life of the planet Earth, and especially values it over human life. While well known for being able to control plants and utilizing poisonous kisses as a weapon, Ivy's powers may be beyond what she usually shows off. In a particularly noteworthy storyline, Poison Ivy was able to mind control essentially the entire human population of Earth through their consumption of fruits and vegetables. And while that's definitely some weird comic book logic as to how that would work, Batman was only barely able to defeat her by bringing her into contact with the one human being she cares about the most, Harley Quinn. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have the Batman Who Laughs. In a dark alternate world where the Joker realizes he's dying and begins a mass killing spree of everyone in Gotham, Batman is forced to finally kill his iconic foe. Unfortunately, at the moment of death, Bruce Wayne is infected with a special brand of Joker venom that completely flips his moral compass, but leaves intact all of his intelligence and tactical planning. All of the chaos of the Joker with the brains of Batman, this supervillain is Bruce Wayne's worst nightmare come to life, and was able to become so powerful over the course of his war against the multiverse that he was only able to be defeated by a literal God mode powered Wonder Woman.
And it's an Bootface. Okay, this guy's origin is the reason I wanted to talk about him. This guy's origin was simply him getting kicked in the face by Batman, and that's it, I'm not even kidding. Bootface was a thug working for Terminus. He got his name because of a boot imprint embedded into his face, which, like I said, is from Batman. Bootface first appeared in Batman and Robin Volume 2, number 10 from 2012, and honestly, it's one of the most interesting origins I've ever seen. And I mean this completely seriously. Everyone else has like a parent die, or was living in poverty, or was being abused. This dude just got kicked in the face and got so mad about it he became a supervillain. Even if he wasn't really like a good person beforehand, I mean, like, he was a thug and basically still is, but like still, just this time he has a ridiculous name to go with it, but hey, I still love it. And a man who is fueled by pure rage because he was permanently scarred by his attacker that ends up being a superhero, that's good enough for me. That's so funny. Bootface. And at 9, Mirror Man. Lloyd Ventures is a criminal who was detained in Gotham State Penitentiary. Using broken mirror shards, he distracts the guards long enough to escape from prison. Inspired by mirrors, I guess somehow, he becomes Mirror Man. Upon creating a machine that would enable him to see through objects, Mirror Man began targeting Batman so that he could find out his secret identity. He literally discovers Batman's identity as Bruce Wayne by using a X-ray mirror, which is freaking nuts. Like, what even is that? How is that a thing? Mirror Man actually gets sent to prison before he can reveal the identity though, but because they want conflict, of course, he manages to escape with a plan to reveal Bruce's identity to the world, only foiled when Alfred, dressed as Batman, interrupts a press conference that Bruce Wayne was hosting, instantly disproving the fact that Batman is Bruce Wayne, because you saw them both in the same room. Even though that obviously Batman has partners. I don't know why people believe that. The public should have seen through this, okay? The people in Gotham City are dumber than we thought. I mean, they had Condiment King, so I guess they are dumb. And at 8, Birthday Boy. Ray Salinger was a serial killer who operated in Gotham under the alias Birthday Boy, and he was actually the first costumed criminal encountered by Batman in his crime-fighting career. Introduced in Batman Earth 1 Volume 1 in June 2012, Birthday Boy is fascinated by young girls resembling his first kill. When in his killer mode, he wears a burlap sack with holes cut out for the eyes and a birthday party hat, usually in a room decorated like a birthday party. As a calling card, he left birthday candles where he stole away his victims and told his victims to make a wish that was decorated with the words "Happy Birthday, Amanda," which is only creepier since we have Amanda here. And I feel like this guy is a representation of all of her DMs. That's right, I'm calling all of you nerds out. I think the sickest part of this character though was when he first started the whole Birthday Boy thing. He had been hired by Mayor Oswald Cobblepot to eliminate various enemies. In return, he was given girls from the streets or enemies of the Penguin as a reward. And at 7, Professor Pig. Professor Pig originally debuted in the alternate reality story of Batman number 666, which I love. He also debuted as a corpse, which I love even more. However, he was introduced as a recurring character in 2009 in Batman and Robin number 1. In Batman Reborn, Laszlo Valentine was an extreme circus mob boss until something turned him into Professor Pig, leading him to begin funding his scientific experiments by selling narcotics to the criminal underworld. All in all, he's an extremely disturbing villain, and that makes me think about why people aren't afraid of pigs as much as they are clowns, because if you ask me, this guy is freaking horrifying, okay? Professor Pig, if you couldn't tell, actually wears a pig mask, along with a butcher's apron, and what at times appears to be some form of hastily thrown together surgical outfit, like he got it from like Wish. Or he got it from like Party City. It's freaking weird. Also ends up brainwashing and controlling various people who he calls his Dolotrons. Like, I don't know what else there is to do other than just run away, so I'm gonna move on now. Although next time I have a pet pig in Minecraft, I know what I'm naming him. Speaking of which, in its 6th, Condiment King. The Condiment King, created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini for Batman the Animated Series, is a villain who makes use of various condiments, sometimes capable of causing anaphylactic shock. And his weapons are literally like those like squeeze tubes for like ketchup and mustard, just on guns. It's hilarious. He's generally used as comic relief within the series, but still. He would make many condiment-based puns. For example, the big bad bat guy, I knew you'd catch up to me sooner. How I relished this meeting. You, the dynamic Dark Knight versus me, the conceptual condiment king. Come, Batman, let's see if you can cut the mustard. The condiment king is seemingly killed after being betrayed and bludgeoned by the human flame with his own ketchup and mustard guns in the miniseries Final Crisis Aftermath Run, which is a comic book, which already shows how he can actually be deadly aside from the whole like anaphylactic shock thing. And that's again not taking into account any potential allergic reactions that he can trigger or blindness. I mean, like, ketchup and mustard are very acidic and can cause some serious damage if left unchecked. It just goes right into the eyes, you know? Plus, what if you have fries and he gives you mustard, okay? The only appropriate punishment for that is death. Halfway through into number 5, Joker's daughter. Unfortunately, it's not the Joker's biological daughter. That would have been an interesting story. This is just a girl who finds Joker's face, stitches it onto hers, and then goes berserk. So honestly, it could very well be his biological daughter. The only person that I think would commit such an atrocious act is in fact the Joker, so who knows? While maybe not being as prolific or accomplished as the Joker, Joker's daughter is definitely insane enough for this list. Like, even if I'm pretty sure like a lot of people know she exists and like not many people underestimate her, but hey, look, even if one person underestimates her and they watch this video, boom, it's enough. It counts, okay? Not to mention the fact that she also went by Catgirl, Scarecrow, Riddler's daughter, Penguin's daughter, Card Queen, and Harley Quinn. Each incarnation also calling herself the respected super person's daughter, which I have to say is going to make a family reunion real awkward. But in actuality, she ended up being Dwella Dent, Two-Face's daughter, apparently, which is seemingly BS in my opinion, but we love a girl with a little flair, you know? And that flair will cause her to ruin Gotham City. In it for Clock King. Born William Talkman, Clock King spends his early years taking care of his invalid sister. One day he finds out from a doctor that he himself only has 6 months to live. Great. Despairing for his sister's future, he watches the timing of a local bank's vault in order to rob it, hoping that the money would provide for his sister after he was gone. His caper would have gone on successfully had he not tripped the silent alarm and been caught by the Green Arrow. The Clock King then goes on to join Major Disasters in Justice League, which becomes the Justice League Antarctica. This JLA includes G-Nort, who ends up saving the lives of the entire team. The original Clock King had no metahuman powers or abilities, although he is athletic and extraordinarily smart. He extensively uses clocks and time-related gimmicks to devastating effect. His primary weapon is a sword forged into the shape of a clock's hand that also doubles as a walking stick. And his skill in swordsmanship is such that even Batman himself could not defeat him in single combat. So watch out for Clock King. Getting close to the end in number 3, the Calculator. While the Calculator now seems to be an oracle of sorts for supervillains, the original purpose and MO of the Calculator is far more entertaining and interesting, at least to me. Noah Cutler began his criminal career by crossing the country and getting into fights with various superheroes on purpose, analyzing and recording their battle tactics to ensure that he couldn't be beaten again. Or in some incarnations, he would simply get beaten and then press a button on his chest to ensure that he didn't get beat again. Maybe that was like taking in the information or something, like how Iron Man would just say like analyze his fight patterns and then come up with countermeasures, you know? But either way, okay, do you know how insanely overpowered that could have been? Just being able to like press a button and then boom, you're instantly basically immune to Batman or Robin or even Superman. Like that would be absolutely amazing. You do this enough times, you could just do whatever you want. And like then other criminals like start paying you to do their crimes for them because you guarantee success. That's freaking nuts. Okay, I wish they kept that Calculator. That could have been an even bigger threat than Darkseid if he kept going at it like that. This is why I'm the hero, because I would be unstoppable as a villain. Penultimately in at number 2, Lex Joker. Lex Joker was created when John Dee, also known as Dr. Destiny, collapsed the DC universe in half. First appearing in Superman Batman number 60 in 2009, Lex Joker is the combination of, you guessed it, Lex Luthor and Joker. Lex Joker hired Doomstroke and Terranado to destroy the Justice Titans. However, after the JTs allied with Batman and Superman, he hired 4 more mercenaries to create the Brotherhood of Injustice. Thanks to Terra, who had gone undercover with the JTs, they were able to attack the Justice Tower and come on, let's be honest. If you have the brains of Lex Luthor and the complete insanity of the Joker, you're making one heck of an opponent. When you have 2 powerful forces in comics, at some point there's like bound to be a mashup of the 2 to create a larger, even more powerful villain. And Lex Joker is probably the scariest combination we could have gotten that wasn't like Joker and Doomsday or Joker and Darkseid. Oh god, Joker Darkseid. And finally, in number 1, the Eraser. The Eraser was the chosen alias of Lenny Fiasco, who turned to crime after living his college days under constant mocking and taunting by his classmates. Of course, it's because, that's what college is like. No, that's high school, bro. Fiasco is a professional at covering the tracks of other crimes. For a 20% cut, the Eraser will erase the evidence of another crime. And honestly, I think that it's like the only job that anyone with the name Fiasco could have. The villain's power is a special helmet designed to look like a pencil eraser, because of course it is, that can wipe off evidence, even those that would be invisible to the naked eye, which is pretty damn cool when you think about it. After Batman posed as a villain to try to capture the Eraser, the villain told Bruce that he had became a criminal because Bruce had shattered his dreams of going out with Celia Smith. I'm not even gonna get into that, okay? Bruce didn't even remember her name, which made the Eraser angry. And I think that this is probably the absolute coolest concept for a supervillain, because in all honesty, if this guy wasn't an idiot, he could have ruled the world. Like, just straight up, this guy would absolutely ruin any and all investigations and then turn the tides of trials. This guy could have ended up being just like a shadow government in himself, okay? If only he wasn't just a dumbass.